to flat.
Holy smokes.
That was a nice throw. Wait.
You clicked on this video because you do not know how to use your hips, or you're just not able to do it, right? At the end of this video, you're gonna know how to use your hips. Real quick, I have a massive spring coaching deal right now at slingshotdiscgolf.com, along with a behind the scenes video that shows how the coaching program works, sort of like a day in my life. Back to the video. This is my hip going forward in this video. All right, I'm gonna need you to get up and follow along throughout this whole video because we're gonna do some things. We're gonna do some wiggling, things like that. So step one in this masterclass is you have to use mind-muscle connection throughout all these exercises or kind of examples that we're doing here. If you don't know what that means the ability to focus your mind on a specific part of your body and engage muscles in that area. For example, take your arm and flex the whole thing while not flexing anything else in your body. Okay, now just flex your fist while not flexing your arm. Mind-muscle connection. We're gonna start with coiling. I'm gonna tell you what not to do, what I see people doing wrong, and what I want you to do. Mistake number one is coiling your hips. I see people coiling their hips. Taking your hips, pointing them back at the camera, right? You're actively moving your hips to here so that you can uncoil those hips. Notice how the tape leaves the camera. Because what you're actually doing here is you're opening your hips. When you coil your hips back like that, you actually, well, two things. One, you don't look like the pro you want to look like. Second, you're taking away the coil that actually creates the full body stretch that, say, Paul McBeth gets. This is what that coil will look like right here. So basically what's happening here is you're actively turning your hips for power. You're turning your hips back to be powerful with them. With the other coil, what I want you to do, you're actually using your hips as blockers. They don't really move, except for maybe a little bit, from the coil. And this allows you to coil your core, your full torso against your hip. No stretch. Stretch. Feeling the stretch. From this side, hip coil, slingshot coil. There's a little sway that way as well, but that's a tiny detail. Now we're gonna do an exaggerated feeling so you understand what I mean by the hips are blockers. I want you to sit on the ground like this. When you sit like this, you can't use your hips. The hips have been taken out of the equation, but we can still coil the torso. This will also test your flexibility. So that's coiling the torso without the hips. Obviously a little different when you stand up because you're moving that way a little bit, so you're kind of swaying that way at the same time, a little more freedom. But ultimately that is the coiling that we're looking for. Please keep in mind that this is a way more physically demanding coil that takes physical conditioning, stretching, training. Remember, we're trying to copy really athletic professional disc golfers who are doing a really athletic movement, especially at max distance. Mistake number two is uncoiling. When you coil the hips, you're actively taking the sides of your hips and you're bringing them back, right? So this is actually a hip movement. So with that mind-muscle connection, I want you to activate your hips right now. So take your stomach and don't do anything with it. Obliques, abs, don't do anything with it. Don't do anything with your legs and just move your hips. You're connecting your mind to this area, which is mainly just bone. I think there's some kind of muscle there, but I don't know what it is because when I do that, I just feel bone. Coiling and uncoiling the hips, that's using your hips. We're using our hips as blockers, as support. We're coiling against that hip, and then when we rotate into the brace and we fire the hips, you don't actually fire the right hip either because the brace is that hip, it is that glute. So you're rotating and getting stopped here, boom, then it'll open up. The reason I bring that part up is because I often see people uncoil their hip, so they're being real active with their right hip, like that. You don't have to do anything with your hips at all. They will move on their own. They are blockers. You don't turn your hips. You turn your obliques. You turn your abs. You turn your core. You turn your whole torso. The problem with people who turn the hips is they leave the torso behind. Let's take those obliques and turn those obliques. Notice how your whole torso turns and you feel some ab engagement. Here's the other thing. Notice how my hips just move. I'm not actively doing anything with my hips, but because I'm turning my obliques, now I'm turning my leg as well, which we're going to go over in a minute. My hips move on their own, okay? Let me reiterate, not everybody's going to be able to do this because not everybody even has active obliques. You might just have love handles here. I know I did. When I first started, I lost 56 pounds recently. If you've been following my channel, I didn't have any oblique power. And when I was trying to throw this way, my body was really sore because you have to be physically conditioned to use your core how I'm talking about. So if you're going to actually use your hips and do the hip technique, maybe that's better for you. But this version, which is the athletic version, you have to be fit. You have to train for this and take it slowly and get in shape. Before I move on to the back leg, here's what you have to understand. Your hips, if you're moving them without really moving your core, well then you're not connected to your arm. Your core, your upper back, your lower back, it's all connected to your arm. It's right there. That's just core movement right there. If you just move your hips, you might miss the connection with your arm. Now we're going to move to the lower body. What do the legs do? Let's start with the most common mistake that I see people making. That's using your hips to move your back leg. So you're twitching your hips really hard and it's making your back leg move. And what happens is you end up doing what I call the frowny face, and look at your own form, you'll probably see it, where you look like this. Where your back leg literally does this, rainbow shape. I call it, frowny face. What you really want to see with most pros is the leg will go down and then it'll swing out. You don't get this huge rainbow most of the time. Like with Paul Macbeth, you don't get that rainbow. Most of the time you get to see this leg drive in and then it whips out. When I use my hips to move my leg, I am taking out every single big muscle on my left leg out of the throw, out of the slingshot. I am literally deactivating my calf, my quad, my hamstring, my left glute. They are not a part of the power at all. Back leg disc golf is the activation of your left thigh, of your left calf, of your foot, of your glute to move your hips. And here's the thing. I do understand that there's a lot of people out there who can throw really, really far without using their back leg. But guess what? It's never effortless. It never looks like a pro. It's just athletes who are throwing far with their arm. Very common. Look at Brody Smith. 500, 600 feet with just his arm. Athleticism gives you an edge, especially if you're tall or strong, lengthy, right? But ultimately, if you're 5'10" and not a super athlete, you're going to have to use that back leg to achieve the distances that you want most of the time. And using the back leg allows you to take effort off of the arm. That's the whole point of the back leg. It takes effort away from the arm. It's about effortlessness. It's about power too, but it's about effortlessness. I'm going to use my glute, my thigh, my calf, my foot, and the ground force to rotate my body powerfully from here to here, and I never had to use my hip. And I activated the ground force here, boom, right? And I'm also turning my obliques at the same time there. There's my powerful rotation where my hips are moved, my hips are engaged, but I didn't actually make a mind-muscle connection to them because they just move if you use the bigger muscles. Why are you trying to engage your hips when you can engage your whole thigh, when you can engage your core, right? So let's say at this point, now you're using the back leg, You're firing your hips by using the full body from here down. Here's a common mistake that comes along with that, and that's over-rotating your whole body. That's not rotation. Powerful rotation is a lot more subtle. It's just from here to here. That's what it is. Boom, that's where you develop the power. Here, here. Boom, that's powerful. When it comes to back leg disc golf, what I teach, what I see people doing is they're trying to throw their whole body like that. You don't need that. You just right here, the rest will take care of itself. So just really focus on a nice, compact, powerful movement to there. The next mistake I see people doing is the counterweight back leg where you pull your hip behind you, keeping you from rotating the hips. If you are actively putting your leg behind you, you're actually pulling your hip back instead of driving your hip forward. And also deactivating every muscle in your back leg. Now I understand the back leg comes off the ground. Well, all you have to do is, there you go. If you want it to come off the ground, now it's going to come off the ground naturally. That's not something you ever force. You are running into a baseball swing. You have a brief amount of time to make your rotational back leg movement, and then it will come off the ground because you're running into it. It's really that simple. The last mistake with the hips that I have here is hyperextending your front leg on purpose. It looks like this. Pushing up and pushing back. Whether you're doing that with the back leg or not. I do understand that Drew Gibson and a few others have that hyperextension that happens. I believe that's genetics. I don't believe they're doing that on purpose. If they are doing it on purpose, I would not do that. You don't want to hyperextend your legs in sports. I always just lean on Paul Macbeth. Let's just look at a simple clip where I don't want you doing that. We want you doing that. You want that knee bent. Ezra as well. If you feel really good and powerful and your leg hyperextends naturally and you're not forcing it, then that's what you're doing. That's fine. But to try to do that, I don't think you're going to be happy with the result, but who knows. The main point of this masterclass is forget about the hips. Use your big muscles, not the bones. You're not doing that, right? Not doing it.